What's up, fam? We are back another episode of the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. We have our guest coming in today, all the way from the big state of Texas, right? We have Mitch Stephen with us. Check this out. He's been an investor for over 25 years. He started at the age of 23. And when he read the book, Nothing Down by Robert Allen, I read that book and it does make an impact. He's purchased well over 2,500 homes. And I mean purchased, not a sign, not double closed, not nothing. He actually has bought 2,500 plus homes in his hometown of San Antonio, fixed and flipped and done a whole bunch of different just strategies, along the way. So he has an extensive background when it comes to real estate investments. I can't wait to pick your brain on everything that you've been through over the last 25 years, Mitch. So thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate you.
We're going to need a longer segment.
Let's do it.
We can fill up this one with just the mistakes I've made.
Oh man, those are my favorite, honestly. Like, I talk about my mistakes more than I talk about the successes. I think they always have that ability to create engrams, right, and drive and fuel to just propel us through the difficult times. So but why don't you tell us a little bit about you, how you got started as an entrepreneur? I mean, you've done some amazing stuff. You have a series, you have a 3-book series out there. I mean, it's not an easy feat, right? My Life in 1,000 Houses. You have Falling Forward to Financial Freedom, 200 Ways to Find Bargain Properties, and The Art of Owner Financing. So there they are. Yeah. So,
I never intended to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably say,
you wrote 4.
Well, 6. 6. It's going to be 7. But the first one, it started with the first one, Failing Forward to Financial Freedom. I never intended to write a book. I had a tragedy happen in my life. I lost someone very important to me. And I started to deal with it by inadvertently, no suggestion. I just started picking up a pen and writing, and I wrote 1,200 pages. And someone that I know that knows about books got a hold of it and said, you got to make this a book. It can't be 1,200 pages, but you got to make this a book. So I turned it into a book. I never meant to write a book, oddly enough. So, but then after that, the biggest question of the day was, how in the world do you find so many deals? And so I published the 200 plus ways, because that was hands down the biggest question. And I said, I don't know. I guess there's 20 or 30 ways. And I started asking everybody, how did we find this house? How did we find that house? And then before you know it, we're approaching 200 ways. There's actually 215 ways in here, because I always over deliver, and I know some asshole out there is going to count, and if I'm short, they're going to call me. So
you bet. Yeah, you bet. Wow.
So, and then writing became kind of a cathartic thing, but if I felt like I could help somebody with some stuff, then I would put some out. Not every book has to be 400 pages. They could be 80 pages or 100 pages, just to get something off your chest, or help someone with a topic that they struggle with. Like, I don't know, the next one I think I'm writing about is like hypothecating notes, or pledging your notes as collateral. Like, how do you owner finance houses and then take the notes down to the community bank and get a loan to cash out your expensive private money and get a long-term low rate fixed loan with a community bank. So, that may only turn out to be like 50 pages, but it's a real important 50 pages. Right. If you're in that segment of the business, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the substance, right? To the substance of the content, and what you're putting out there. You see some. I've seen it 1,000 times. We have super long training, for example, training programs, and the hundreds of videos and hours and hours and hours. And what you really need is something that's concise. That's going to be 10-hour training.
Yeah, I try to give you the revelation I had is how I got to this point. So you don't have to try all this other stuff. I already tried it. This is what happened. Like, and then the other point is, like, this book right here, it's $50 on Amazon.
Yeah.
And then I've had more than a handful of people go, why the hell is that book $50? It's like, you need to set the book down and step away from it. You are not ready. There's $1 million in that book.
Yeah.
There's $1 million freaking dollars in that book. I personally made millions off of everything I talked to here, millions upon millions. So, one of the other reasons I put the book at $50 is if you weren't really serious about this business, then don't get into it, because you could hurt a lot of innocent people in this business if you don't know what you're doing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, especially when you're doing advanced strategies, for example, like, creative financing or notes and things like that. So
well, these are people's homes generally, you know what I mean? So like,
yeah,
you mess this up and they get their home yanked from them after 10 or 15 years because you didn't do some stuff right, or you know what I mean, then this is a bad situation.
Yeah, it is. It can be a bad situation. So how did you get started? I mean, 25 years ago, you have what was it, like an epiphany, or what got you to just go all into real estate and then start having the level of success that you've had so far?
At 23, I read the book Nothing Down, which that man, Robert Allen, had the audacity to suggest that I didn't have to have money to get involved and actually become rich in the real estate business.
Yeah.
And that was perfect for me because I didn't have shit. I didn't have a damn 2 nickels to rub together.
One of the times
really appealed to me. This man is talking to me. And this is one thing I want to say to everyone out there. If you think it takes money to make money, then just stop right now and get out of it, because you're never going to get there. You have to pick, if you don't have money, you have to pick strategies that you can win at with no money. And they're there. You teach one of the most obvious ones ever, wholesaling and assigning contracts. I mean, that's how you do it. When you don't have money, you're a professional deal finder / contract writer-upper. Yeah. And believe it or not, that set of papers is worth a small fortune to the right person.
Absolutely, 100%.
But how I really got started was, at 23, I read that book. I bought my own place. I had a couple of rentals, but I wasn't in the business. I didn't get in the business till I was 34. I quit in March of 1996 to go full-time. And basically what it was I had been capped at about $15, $16 an hour because I didn't have a college degree. And no matter how good a job I did for anybody, they didn't want to pay me what I was worth. At least that's how I felt about it. And so I made a pact one day and said, I'm not ever going back to having a job again. If I can't make $15, $16, $17 an hour out in the street by myself with nobody's help, then just shoot me. I'm going to paint. A dear friend who's since passed was a prisoner of war. He got captured by Castro in the Bay of Pigs, and he spent 24 months over there. And I'm always intrigued about high stress situations, and he was willing to talk about it, and I was willing to ask as many questions as he wanted to answer. And my biggest question was, how do you survive when you don't know? I mean, if you'd have known it was going to be 24 months, it'd have been easy enough to count down on the calendar, but you didn't know if it was going to be 24 months or 24 years. And they're doing really awful things to you every day. And he said, the mind is the most powerful thing in the world, and the human body is the most adaptable thing in the world. If the human body gets just enough water and just enough protein, and if you can keep your mind, the body will figure everything out. But you got to keep your mind. Yeah. The only thing they can't take, they can try, and believe me, there's methods to take it, but you could fight back. And so he was talking about keeping his mind under heavy duty duress as a POW, being tortured and all this other stuff, starved and encaged and a bunch of really horrible shit. All I had to do, because I believed what he said, the human body is the most adaptive thing in the world. I believed him. Yeah. So I had to paint my body into a box that it couldn't get out of to figure out what it was going to do, how it was going to solve the problem. And to do that, I had to keep my mind, which in my case was I could not go back to a job. I had to keep in control of that thought and never go back again. And if I kept myself out of a job, I did not believe I was going to starve, and I did not believe I was going to go thirsty, and I did not believe I was going to go under. I believed that my body was going to figure it out. So I took having a job off the table, and through a chain of events, I ended up in the real estate business.
So that's an incredible story, right? I mean, going back from somebody who survived that, that degree of challenge, and then learning from that, really, borrowing from somebody else's experience, it's one of the biggest traits as entrepreneurs. I think it's
well, the question was, what was the chance what was the chances I wasn't going to get enough water? Yeah. San Antonio, Texas. Good, clean drinking water. What was the chances I wasn't going to get enough protein? It was zero. Zero chances that I was not going to get that. I was going to get that. So the question was, could I take having a job boldly and definitely off the table?
Yeah. I mean, the mental framework.
I realized that I may have to do without female compassion, or I might have to do without a lot of stuff during this journey in the woods, because I may not have anything. You know what I mean?
Right,
but
right.
I'm going to figure it out. And when I figure it out, and when I did figure it out, the first weeks weren't too good. Maybe I made $5 a freaking day. I don't know. It was horrible. And then I learned how to make $15 an hour. But then I figured out how to up it and how to make $25 an hour. Well, because I was working for myself, I was 100% recipient of the $10 an hour raise. And when I figured out how to make $50 an hour and $100 an hour, I was 100% recipient. I mean, at one point, I was worth I figured it out one year, I was worth $800 an hour. So,
you also said something very important that I think it's key. And that's, you made a pact. You mentioned making a pact. And you said, I made a pact to not ever get a job again, work for anybody else. This is a pact to yourself, right? This is a commitment that I'm assuming it's a pact to yourself. It's a commitment.
I never told anybody else. Yeah. I never told anyone about it when I was going through it. That
conversation, that whole thing is happening, inside your head. A lot of times it can be challenging to really stick to some of those, things that we promise ourselves, some of those pacts that we, create for ourselves.
The number one ingredient, if you ask me, just humble old me, I don't have a psychology degree or anything, but the number one ingredient is you have to have had enough of how it's been. Your enough meter has to be pegged over in the red so deep that you're not taking this crap anymore. You're not. I'd rather die than keep going the way I'm going.
Well, that's another title of your books, right? You wrote a book, Enough.
Well, yeah, it was a different topic, but I made a pact with myself to quit smoking and drinking. After smoking and drinking every day for 40 years, I didn't smoke for 40 years, but I smoked for about 15. And the last 6 or 7 years, I smoked a pack a day when I was drinking. If I didn't drink, I didn't smoke. So anyways,
I'm seeing a pattern here of commitment, right? So, it sounds like you get to a point where you get tired. You got to a point initially where you got tired of having a job and reporting somewhere else that wasn't your.
No, I wasn't tired of having a job and reporting. I was tired of not getting paid what I was worth. I was tired of working for freaking pennies. If they had paid me $1 million a year paid me what I was worth, I'd have been happy. But I was tired of not getting paid at least a good salary,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a nice guy. I don't negotiate well. Even today, I'm a nice guy. I have to find ways to negotiate or to put myself in negotiating positions that are easy for me because I'm better now. I'm 60. I'm jaded. I'll say a lot more things to your face than I would say, when I was in my 30s, just because of age. But I was a very sweet, docile, kind, loving person. And it didn't fare well for me in business. It was great in life.
And then real estate happened. Turned you into a monster. No, it's the reality of the world, right? When you venture out and do your own thing, and this is a topic that we've hit a few times before in the podcast, when you venture out and start doing your own thing and betting on your own self, you really, even if you're comfortable and you're in a space where you have, you're making ends meet and whatnot, you're there. You're going to take all that away because you're going to bet on yourself. So you automatically get into this survival mode state. And now you're betting on yourself. So anything that you do has a lot more meaning to it, a lot more pressure, right? Like the conversations that you need to have, the time that you need to spend gets a lot more focused just because you're somewhat burning the boats to that quote unquote financial security.
I went on a kind of a journey to start figuring out the problem was I had no entrepreneurs in my family. No one ever talked about money. They damn sure didn't teach it to us in school. All the things that I needed to know, like as I'm going through in my early career, it's like, when you're reading Robert Allen or you're reading Kiyosaki or you're reading whoever the great book of the day was, it's like, why in the hell did no one ever tell me about this shit? What did I go to school for? Damn it. What was I doing? I'm still pissed off at the education system to the end.
It's got nothing to do with everything that we come across as entrepreneurs. It's got absolutely nothing to do.
No, and so I'm not saying that college doesn't have a place for a certain amount of people who want to be doctors and lawyers, even though I still would argue against it because you put in all this time. And as you can see now, doctors' jobs that used to be a glorified high position. Now they're treating doctors like they're a dime a dozen. They're loading up their schedules. They become slaves to the laws and the regulations. And, you know,
well, you're tapping into something very interesting. Think about the term professional, right? What does that mean? If you're a professional, you are.
Well, it used to mean you had a degree and some placards on the wall and you had a ring, you know, from a college or whatever.
Yeah, all of that for the most part entails you doing the thing. It entails you spending time and then, you know, doing the surgery, right? Or doing the litigation or doing the, you know, whatnot. And it's almost, it doesn't go hand in hand with the freedom of time and liberty that we often look at, you know, for as entrepreneurs. You know, we're proficient, I think, in our fields, right, and doing this thing. But it's the whole adage of you know, adding a title to a profession or a skill set really anchors you in. And I mean, I have 2 degrees in psychology, so they should be practicing, but I'm not, because entrepreneurship is the way. I mean, paving my own ways and owning the options. I think it's a lot more important than having that.
Now you might be using it right now. You're probably analyzing me right now, going, "Wow."
No, I use it. I just don't use it in practice.
So you know, I like to tell everyone I graduated from La Calle U.
Mm.
So I don't know how well your Spanish is, Mr. Cortez.
La Calle U?
Yeah. You know what La Calle means?
Yeah, of course.
The street.
La Calle U. Yeah, La Calle University. So
yeah. I graduated from La Calle U. Yeah, because I have a double master's in the most expensive college on the planet. It's called The Street, and it will kick your ass up and down and take everything you have. And you may or may not learn anything. But if you learn by pain, that's where you go. I have to learn by pain. You can tell me all you want that the burner's hot. I'm still going to touch it with my right hand. I'm still going to touch it with my left hand and go, all right.
I was watching that reminds me, man. I was watching, this is a couple of years ago. Well, actually, no, maybe about 5 years ago. One of my kids, my son he's 10 years old, but he was about 5 years old. And we were at a bonfire in a backyard. And there was this piñata going on. There was kids all over the place. And there was this bonfire kind of tucked away in the backyard, right? And he would get close to it. And I spent maybe 30 minutes telling him, no, don't do it. Step away from it. And I'm being, you know, I'm concerned, you know, about him. And finally I said, you know what, fuck it. He's going to learn. And I know some people are going to be pissed off if they listen to this right now, but I mean, I didn't let him do, I was watching, right? But I was watching from a distance, and instead of stopping him from just getting close to it and feeling that heat, because I was stopping him 3 feet before he made it over there. You know what I mean? And I was concerned. I wasn't letting him learn, and he was just not. He wouldn't understand. He wasn't understanding why I was stopping him. Right? He hadn't, you know, played with a bonfire like that before. And then he started getting closer.
And he goes, oh, that's why Daddy don't want me to get over there.
Yeah, and granted, he didn't make it all the way into but he felt the heat when he was about a foot away. He really felt the heat, and it was like, oh shit! And then he started stepping back. It's kind of like that, you know, as we're going through it, right? We can read about the fire, we can, you know, see the fire, see the pictures, and
people can tell you about the fire.
But yeah, but it's never gonna be the same as when you're exposed to it and you go through the process of it.
Yeah, that happens a lot. You know, I recognize some students. My partner was like that. I tell him, if you take this person and put him in this house, you're going to get it back within 3 months. Mark my word, write it down. He goes, no, I don't feel it. I says, okay, try it. And he comes back and goes, how do you know this? I said, because I know. I've done it too many times.
I know the fire.
I know the fire. I know where, I know.
So going back to it, it's interesting, right? So you have this skill set of figuring things out, and I can relate to that. I feel like we overlap there quite a bit. It's not a chip on the shoulder. It's just a sense of understanding that you're going to be able to figure it out. Whatever it is, whatever comes our way, there's always going to be everything's
figured out. Please don't ever take my enthusiasm as arrogance, because I'll tell you right now, I'm never the smartest guy in the room, never have been the smartest guy in the room. The only reason why I know what I know now is because I've been 27 years in the same niche, which is buying my house with OPM and selling it with seller financing, which 23 years ago, nobody was teaching. And I was the only guy out there screaming at the top of my lungs, why are you guys being landlords? You should be looking at it like this. Yeah. And there's arguments for both sides. And I'm not chastising buy and hold or landlords, you know, because there's been a lot of millionaires, but I think there's a better way.
You
And
didn't deal with toilets.
yeah. So here's what I do basically is I buy stuff for 50 cents on the dollar or X, and I owner finance it for 2X. One, because the house is worth 2X, but if it's not exactly worth 2X really, then I get the 2X because I'm offering financing. You know, that sofa that you bought for $7,000 isn't worth $7,000 either. The reason why you bought it, it was 0% interest for the next 5 years. That's why you bought it for $7,000, because it's not worth $7,000. You bought it because someone made it affordable for you, and you really liked it. So I do the same thing. Now, I'll go up to 65% in seller finance, you know, at the 100%. So I at least need a 35% margin. But I average about 58% if you look at my spreadsheets over the deal. So I think the interesting thing is you can sell houses at 100% over the market at times. And I have, like in 2009 and 2010. Can we agree on a couple of things, Raphael? Let's just say in a recession, can we agree that banks stop lending?
Yeah.
It's either the cause of the recession or the result of the recession, but either
it's
way,
one of the two. It's linked. Yeah.
Banks aren't lending in the middle of a recession. Can we agree that a person paying X for rent would rather pay that same X per month to own?
To their
Not
own mortgage.
everybody, but a big majority. I don't know if it's 78% or 83%, or I don't know, but more people than you'll ever sell a house to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we agree on those two things?
Yep.
So what I do is I've established the OFV, which is the owner finance value, which is an acronym I'm pretty sure I came up with. I haven't invented much in my life, but there was the ARV and the MAO, that MOA, you know,
maximum allowable offer,
offer, MAO. And I came up with the OFV, and this is how you figure out the owner finance value, the sales price of a house based on the rents. So that my goal is when I go out to find houses, I want to buy houses that if I sell them for the same PIT payment equal to what the rent is across the street, that almost all those people across the street will walk over and want to buy my house. The only separator being, do they have the 10,000 or 15,000 or, you know, down, a minimum of 10% down?
Yeah.
That's the separator. Because they don't have good credit, or they don't have any credit at all, or they're not even from this country. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
they not even
also
have social.
You know, for you to take that risk and put it out there like that, they got to have some teeth, some skin in the game, and that's the form of down payment there. So
what happens is, this is the formula. If you guys want to get out your pencil and paper, it's a very interesting formula.
I am taking notes, my friend.
I'm going to use some numbers that are kind of passe, but I know the numbers, so I'm going to use them. Don't worry about the smallness of these numbers in today's housing market. Just worry about the theory. Just follow me in theory. So the first thing I do when I go up to buy a house is I figure out what the average rents are in the neighborhood. A lot easier to get than comps. And be sure to ask me about comps at the end of this, but well, I'll just say it now so we get it out of the way. Today, the price of houses have gone up so fast that rents haven't caught up to them. So the comps will be worth more than the rent formula. But in a recession, when banks quit loaning, prices of houses drop like a rock, but rents go up, because if you can't afford to buy it, if the banks aren't open to loan money to buy houses, then everybody becomes a renter. So there's a lot of pressure on rents.
Supply and demand.
Go up. Okay. The rents go up during a recession.
Yep.
So I figure out, I get the rents in the neighborhood. Let's say the rents are $1,000. So you take $1,000 and then you do minus parenthesis monthly taxes plus monthly insurance, close parenthesis.
Okay.
Times 115 or 115 equals, plus 12% equals OFV. So take 1,000, let's say taxes are 100 and insurance is 50. So 1,000 minus 150 is 850. 850 times 115 is 7,000. What is it? $7,750. So in my book, that's like 98,000. I always round off and I always round to my favor. So we're trying to find the sales price. So I'm rounding up. So 97,750, I just make it 98.
Okay.
98,000 plus 12%. And the owner finance value of this house is right around 110 when you round it off.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, yep. I'm with you.
Okay. Now I asked for 10% as a down payment, but I never want to ask for the minimum. So that's why I added 12% instead of 10%, because I really want to get more than, I mean, the more I get for a down payment, the better off the more solid my deal is. So you would put 10% in there if you really looked at what my minimums are. But so here's the thing.
Quick question on that. The banks go for 20% down whenever you're doing a regular conventional loan. Why is there a particular reason why you don't go that high on the down payment?
These are homeowners. This is their home. I don't need to drive them that hard. It's their damn home. They're going to put 10% down to get in the house, and then they're going to put up a fence and a patio, and they're going to paint it and put in new windows. You know what I mean? They're going to put roofs down. They're going to do landscaping and driveways and all this stuff. So it won't take them long to get in 20%. And then since they're the owner of the house, they'll look up in 2 years and the house isn't worth 110 anymore. The house is worth 130. So not only is there the 10,000 that they gave me or 12,000 they gave me to get in, they now got another 30,000 in appreciation that if they walk, they lose.
Yeah.
Your
security increases. Yeah.
Cool. It's all a bunch of glue that just keeps holding them to the.
I knew you had an answer for that.
Okay. So look, in the recession, the banks quit loaning money. 2008, 10, 11. I don't know how long it lasts, but it lasted a lot longer than most people think. I was buying houses at the time before the recession at like 57, 58, 59,000, say in this one neighborhood. Well, the recession hit, and now I could buy the same houses at 27,000. Why? Again, the banks quit loaning money and most people can't pay cash. Now, clearly the comps were clear in this neighborhood. 27,000 had 30 sales in the neighborhood that proved, or in the realtor's mind, proved the house was only worth 27,000. About 80% of those sales were cash because banks weren't lending, and so that people were buying houses for cash. Because
whoever had cash was just, I mean, it was a gold mine.
When we have a lot of cash sales in a neighborhood, that drives the prices down, right?
Right.
But when I did the rent formula said I could sell the house for $59,900. So I would buy the house for 27, not even take the dog crap off the carpet, and put it up for sale for 59,000 with 6,000 down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And so during the recession, if you're seller financing, you'll have the only appreciating house in the land, because my house prices was going up because the rents were going up during the recession because no one could borrow money to buy a house. So everybody became a renter.
Yeah.
And when you got a lot of pressure on rents, it goes up. So if the rents are going up, what did I tell you I set my owner finance value at? I set the value by the rents. And if the rents are going up, then I got an appreciating sales price. And I explained this to my bankers over and over again, and they just did not want to believe me. But I just kept bringing in deal after deal after deal. And I said, you guys keep telling me that I'm wrong, but I'm right every single time I buy a house. It works like this. And so they finally, figured I knew what I was doing. So when you buy a house for 27 and you got it for sale for 59 the next day, and someone, a potential buyer comes in the house and they're dragging their realtor along, the realtor will scream, "You're ripping these people off. This house is not worth 59,000. It's clearly worth 27. There's 30 comps." I said, "Yeah, it is. If he's got cash. If he's got 27 cash, you're in the wrong house."
You need to go down the street and buy one of the cash ones.
I'm looking for someone who has just 6,000 that wants to pay me $1,000, $1,100 a month instead of paying that renter, because in my opinion, the renter's the one that's ripping this poor man off, not me, because they ain't giving him nothing for his $1,100 a month. They're not getting the damn thing. And in fact,
the money's it's gone.
They're going to reward him for paying right on time for the next 12 months. You know how they're going to reward this renter? They're going to raise his rent. my payment's fixed for 30 years. Of course, now taxes and insurance can vary, but that's the same with all of us. and the taxes and insurance vary with landlords too. And that's some of the reason why there's rent increases at times. But
so I have two questions, I have two questions, and these are strategic in nature, I guess. But how do you get around and I haven't done a lot of we usually assign seller financing deals and do that sort of thing. I've kept a few and whatnot, but not to the point where we're doing volume, right? When it comes to seller financing or selling a property via seller financing. How do you get around issues like the Dodd-Frank Act and regulations?
You get around them. You hire an RMLO and you do what they say. You just conform. No, it's a real easy conversation. I can't even tell you what it's about. This is what you do. I called up my RMLO. I said, "What do we get? Can we have a meeting with you and the people at my office that are responsible for closing deals? Can we have a meeting with you and you tell us what we need to do?" Then he gets on the phone with everybody or a Zoom call and he says, "This is what we have to do to conform." And then everyone goes, "Okay, we got it." I said, "Okay, good, do it." I don't care what it was. Just figure out what we have to do to conform and do it, because it's worth too much money not to conform.
Wow. Okay.
And so I couldn't even tell you everything. I mean, I know we have to have a reasonable reason to believe that they can make a payment.
Right.
But so, the owner finance strategy does well in the good times, but it booms during the bad times. It booms in the bad times because of this crazy dynamic where prices will drop, but rents will go up. And I'm selling based on the rents. It booms like crazy in the bad times. I was buying a house a day for 45 days till I scared myself. At the time, I was the acquisition hat. I wore the acquisition hat, and I owned this, and I wore the sales hat. Very bad position. So what happened was I had about, I don't know, say 100 houses, and then the recession hit, and about 1/3 of my portfolio went into foreclosure. And then I was buying 45 houses 45 days in a row, so I had 75 vacant houses, and I was the acquisition guy and the sales guy. And if you're buying a house a day, you ain't selling shit. You're buying.
Yeah, you're buying. You're in the process.
When I got to 70 vacancies, I got scared and I stopped buying and I went over. That won't happen again because of that situation. I since moved my business to another level, and I have acquisition people and I have salespeople, and they're separate, and I am neither one of them anymore.
Yeah, you have.
But so if a business does good in the good times and it booms in the bad times, when do you go broke?
Yeah.
Okay, now there is an answer, because you can always go broke. You can go broke, number one, if you don't conform to some rules and regulations, state and federal, because they'll come back around and smash you to pieces if you get out of bounds too far or too long.
Right.
Number two, if you over leverage and just start borrowing, like a lot of people, every guru, I mean, some of the biggest gurus have filed bankruptcy because they over leveraged. They went to the bank and they borrowed up on the houses because they didn't have to pay tax on borrowed money, and they borrowed up to the hilt of the values, and then the values crashed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an old story, and I was a witness to it. And there are some pretty smart guys, and I just didn't want to make their mistakes. So if I want to buy a house over 65% of what I can owner finance it for, I got to put that money out of my pocket. So if I want to buy a house for 70%, then I got to put 5% in myself. I never let my private lenders in over 65%. And I don't just go to 65%. If I can buy the house for 45% of the owner finance value, then I just borrow the 45. I'll get my money on the back end as it comes in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because right now I have $26 million in private money, first lien, wrappable, non-recourse, collateral only, longer term, like 15 years, or 15 years with a 10-year balloon, or 15 years with a 7-year balloon. And every deal stands on its own. There's no deal cross-collateralized with anything. If you got $500,000 and you want to loan it to me, then I say, okay, here's a house. We'll put 75 on this house. We'll put 110 on this house, and they all stand alone. And I have this right every day, and I say this to every private lender the first time they're about to loan me money. The very first time they're about to loan me money on their first deal with me, I look them right in the eye and I say, look, you need to be aware You need to understand. If you loan me this money, I have two rights every day of my life. I have the right to pay as agreed, or I have the right to hand you the deed to this property and call it a day. So if you don't like that house for this amount of money,
don't invest in it.
Don't do this loan.
Yeah.
So sometimes people go, well, if you don't believe enough in your strategy to sign your name personally, why would you do it? And I say, no. Don't get me confused with someone that's afraid to sign his name, because I'm not. And I got millions of dollars worth of debt with my name on it that I can show you right now. But when I sign my name, I get 3.75%. So if you're offering me 3.75%, I will sign all day long. The reason why I'm paying you 8 or 9 or 10% is to share in the downside catastrophic risk of something I have no control over. Because when I signed on that dotted line with the bank, I guaranteed shit that there's no way in hell I can control. Meteors, floods, hurricanes, locusts, war, terrorism, nuclear bombs. I guaranteed that I was going to take care of it no matter what. And that's a promise you just can't really make.
Yeah.
But apparently it's okay with them, so we'll do it. And they give you a big rate. So if I'm going to pay you 8 or 9, that's, if Kim Jong dumbass drops a nuclear bomb in downtown San Antonio, that's not my friggin' fault. And I don't want to be penalized for something that went wrong that's not my fault. Now I'm willing to pay a premium for that, 8, 9, 10%.
Yeah, for somebody else to come in and assume the risk and flip turn their money, actually flip their money. So
that's what you're making that rate of return for, because I don't need you to get that kind of money. I can get money in a lot of places, you know. Now that wasn't necessarily true when I first started out. I needed the private lender like nobody's business, but after a certain amount of time, I could move around. Now here's another interesting conversation. I got $26 million that I'll make payments on the first. My blended yield to them is about 8%. I sell all my houses on 30-year fixed 10% notes. So on that 26 million at 8%, I've got it loaned out at 10% plus all
that too. Yeah.
So I got 26 million I owe, but I got people owing me about 42 million at 10%. There's two sides. I borrowed 26 million to buy the houses, and they owe me 42 million, more or less, maybe 38, whatever.
Yeah, because you're talking about the ARV.
I'm making 2% on the 26 million, like a CD, a $26 million CD. I'm making 2% arbitrage or difference in their rate and my rate.
Right.
And then I'm making the full 10% on the equity,
Yep.
And then I got paid 10 or 15% as a down payment up front to make that happen. So let's just look at it. Let's do some numbers. You got a calculator with you?
Yep. Shoot.
And if you bought a house for 50, you sold it for 100 with 10% down, that means you're making a note for 90 at 10% for 30 years. So you're borrowing the 50 at 8%, and you got a note for 90. So you're making 2% on the 50,000 that you borrowed, and you're making the full 10% on the other 40,000, and you're getting paid 10 grand to make that happen. I'm borrowing 100% of this deal. I have not one penny in it. So when I get a $10,000 down payment, it goes in my pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, sometimes I ask for 10% and someone will give me $30,000 down on 100,000 because they sold their house and they don't want that money to evaporate. So they'll put it into the next house, or for whatever reason, they know that if they leave their money in the bank, that it'll disappear. So they want to put it all and make their house payment low for 30 years. So I say this to the landlords. When's the last time someone came up and gave you $25,000 non-refundable deposit?
Yep.
That's a possibility every day for me.
Yeah.
I've had people give me $50,000 on a $100,000 house. You think that note's easy to sell? So where was I going with this? So the banks right now, everything's hunky-dory. The banks are calling me, says, let us take out all that 26 million at 8% blended yield. Let's take it all out for 3.75. Look at the difference it'll make in your life. And it does. It makes a huge friggin' difference. Gigantic. Here's the problem. When the next recession hits, if I cash all my private lenders out, they're going to go away. It's taken me 27 years to build these people. right?
Yeah.
Some of these people have been with me for 30 years. A whole bunch of them would have been with me for almost 30 years if they hadn't have died, you know, but in 30 years, a lot of people die. And so I have people that have been with me 25 years. People have been with me 20 years. People have been with me 18 and 15 and 14 years and 10 years. You know, they don't keep loaning me money because I cause them problems. But the point is, if I cash them all out, they'll all go away, and the bank won't be there for me when I need them the most, which is when the shit hits the fan.
Right.
So I got to keep a balance. So I'm taking tranches and I'm hypothecating these notes like $1 million or $1.5 million at a time, so that I can get their money out real fast. I mean, I put them on the sidelines for just a little while, but then I get it out again real fast. And then the next tranche, I will leave those people alone, and I'll go to a different set of people, and I'll do 1 or 1.5 million of people that I haven't touched before in this way. You know, I haven't given them all their money back, and I don't ever give them all their money back. I say, like, this guy has 7 loans with me, I'm going to pay him off on 2. This guy has 3 loans, I just pay him off on 1. And then I rush to get their money back out as soon as I start buying houses again. Those are the first people I got to get their money out. So I can, that's why I have these people for 25 and 30 years, is I keep their money busy. I don't ever let them sit on the sidelines too long. And I think like this. Yeah, I don't need them today.
Yeah, doesn't mean that you're not going to need them. Yeah. Yeah,
but the next recession I'll need them.
Yeah. Wow. That's an incredible business model, man. So, I mean, you're covering a couple of different things that are crucial when it comes to, you know, buying right. I mean, you're buying it at 60 or leveraging 65%. That's a very interesting discipline.
Well, in the recession, you can buy right all the time, because you're looking at high rent numbers in failing house prices. So in the recession, you can find a deal like every day.
Yeah.
Because if you look at what the rent says it's worth and what the comps are saying, it's easy. And that's when you need the private people.
Yeah. So what are the drawbacks? And this is, I'm just curious at this point, what are drawbacks of you know, having a model like this in place?
Okay, really good question. Because there's a plus and minus to everything. There's a yin and yang, you know, there's always, when you're seller financing houses, you don't get appreciation and you don't get depreciation, okay? Now, the appreciation is a real easy argument.
Yeah.
I bought this house for 65 and sold it. I'm averaging 4 days on the market in my owner financed homes,
wow.
which is a whole other episode. I can show you how I do that and why I do it. I don't even put signs in front of my houses anymore. Not one, not even one in the front yard. So I don't get appreciation, but I bought a house for max 65% and I sold it for 100% in 4 days. I mean, you want to annualize that rate of return?
Yeah, you already have the equity buying into it.
So I have my appreciation when I buy. I don't know why landlords think they have to wait for 10 friggin' years to establish. I mean, if you're buying your houses right, you should be good from day one. You know, my humble opinion. Don't take that as cocky, but really, if you're buying things at market and waiting for them to go up, that's a really dangerous business. And that happens in cities like Phoenix and Los Angeles and Florida. In Texas, in the flyover states, our properties don't appreciate fast enough to have that model. You guys have that potential to have that model because you got some huge pivots in the prices of houses. You've been through the cycle before, right? Or you've seen them. Well, around here, we don't have that. So I never got into that. But I think it's a bad business model. Betting on appreciation, I think, is a risky business model. I'll bet on my ability to find houses at discount prices. And then once I get the house, there's no doubt what it's worth and that it's worth more than I paid for. And so I don't worry about appreciation at all, that argument. But now the depreciation side gets a little bit serious because you do need some, you know, you're going to pay a lot in taxes. But that's the first problem to have, you know, worry about that problem when you're making enough money to worry about that. And then when you got enough money to worry about that, start trying to solve that problem. You know, it's the challenge is always, the first challenge is always, I need to make money. I need to make money. And the second challenge is I need to keep more of the money that I make.
Keep more of the money.
Yeah. So what we do is, I was saying, if you wanted to do some math, I have 300 mortgages I collect on. I average just under 500, but let's use 500 as a nice round number. If I have $500 a month positive cash flow on 300 mortgages that I'm collecting the payments on, how much am I making a month positive cash flow?
150,000.
150,000 a month.
Yeah.
How many people could live off of that? Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a machine, and my machine costs about 35,000 a month to run. So you take 150, you take 35, so it's 110 or 15, right? That I'm netting.
Yeah.
So every now and then I'll bundle up some notes and I'll sell them, or I'll borrow against some free and clear houses that I have or whatever, and I'll raise $500,000 or $700,000, and I will go buy a mini storage project that's worth 50%, 100% more. So I try to put 50% down because I don't like to over leverage. I think if I keep buying things at 50 cents on the dollar, I'm not going to go broke over debt. Yeah. That's my theory. Could be right or it could be wrong, but that's my theory. If I pay 50, in my long-term investments, my forever investments, which means they end when I say it ends. Fix and flips, wholesales, those are one-time cash events.
Right.
One time. I'm quoting Jack Bosch from the book Forever Cash. Notes are temporary cash because it's going to come in for a while, but notes have an expiration date. They're going to pay off. And then you got to take the money from the one-time cash events and the temporary cash events like owner financing, and you got to buy into a forever cash strategy, which ends when you say it ends.
Yep.
I chose boat and mini storages and semi-truck parking and storage, self-storage. And so I'll put together enough notes, or I'll sell enough notes, or I'll do something with the inventory that I have in my portfolio, and I will create $700,000. I'll cash in on $700,000 of it, and I'll go put $700,000 down on a $1.5 million storage facility, and now I got depreciation.
Yep.
Make no mistake, the owner financing strategy is not the final step. You can owner finance your ass off, but if you don't take the money you make from this and put it into a forever strategy, which is apartments or commercial buildings or something that you rent, then you haven't completed the full task, and you're not gonna be where you thought you were years down the road, 8 years, 10 years down the road. Because the average mortgage in America lasts, about 7.5 years. Maybe in the economic echelon that I work in, which is the lower or the middle, maybe they keep their notes for 10 years. But I could have 1,000 mortgages, and in 10 years, I'm not going to have very many. They're all going to pay me off. Now, the people that I sell to are not going to refinance, because if the people I sell to are inherently flawed. They can't go and make a house payment and a car payment and a utility bill. They can't make them all on time for 12 months in a row.
Yeah.
They just can't. They don't. And so they're never going to be able to refi.
Crazy human.
But what happens is they decide they're going to sell the house, and then they call a realtor, and the realtor finds a buyer, and they go get a new loan, and now I'm getting called for a payoff. That's what happens. If you really want your house to get paid off fast, sell it to investors at 10% 30-year fixed. They'll buy your property, they'll straighten it out, they'll get it going, and then they'll cash you out with a long-term loan from a bank within a short period of time. But
call it 6 months and you're out. I love this. I mean, it's a really clean way to put it, right? One-time investments, temporary investments, and forever investments. I mean, that makes the world of sense. So yeah, thank you for that, man. It's a very it sounds like a very effective model. I really need to look more into it because
think about it. When I receive that payment and I get that $500 positive cash flow, that's one of the problems, the biggest problem with being a landlord. When I get that $500 positive cash flow as a landlord, hell, I don't even know if I can spend it because if the air conditioner breaks next month, I'm collecting this money for the freaking air conditioning man. That's a fallacy with having stuff like that. I mean, it works at a larger scale, but if you only have one or two, or you're trying to build it up, I mean, it can become really, really tough. So yeah, no, thank you for that. I appreciate it, man. I mean, you've dropped so much great information. I'm going to come back and re-listen to this episode. Absolutely 1,000%. And I recommend you guys do it as well. Whoever's listening. So, Mitch, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, maybe find out more, get
reach out to you, send you a message, or get in touch as to what you have out there, what is the best place to reach out?
It's real easy. You can get so sick of me at 1000houses.com. There's more of me than anyone would ever want to know ever at 1000houses.com. That's 1000houses.com. And there's my podcast, there's my blogs, there's my YouTube channels. I have 180 10-minute YouTube segments out there about from anything A to Z, whatever's on my mind. I don't know. I got courses, I only have 3 courses. I got an online course. I got a Tuesday night call where we talk once a week in a group coaching setting on the phone with maybe 15 people, maybe 45 people. But my commitment is to stay on the call till everyone's question is answered. And then there's one-on-one where you just pay me and I have no time limits. I have no if you need me, you pick up the phone, you call me. We talk about what you're doing, where you're trying to go.
Works, Sam.
Yeah, and that coaching's like a more expensive level right now. I have the right to change my price, but it's $25,000. But I'm going to interview you for about an hour to see if I think I can get that money back for you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to take you if I don't see that there's things you're not doing that I know to do that'll make you that money back. So I'm not in it for just the money. I'm in it to be on a winning team. Maybe I'll do 10 people at $25,000 in the whole year. I'm not a millhouse. I don't want to be a millhouse. I'm 61 years old. I got a ranch. I got a family. I got 8 businesses, and I'm looking at quality of life now more than how much money do I have, because I really have enough. The only problem is if I don't charge any money, I won't find who I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, there's got to be skin in the game for people to actually come in, get vested into what they're doing. A lot of times that's the motivation that's needed, right?
Yeah, and if you want that consultant call, just go to 1000houses.com, get a hold, or Mitch at 1000houses.com, email me. We'll have that conversation. There's never any pressure about it. It's not about pressure. It's like trying to see if I'm a fit for you, for where you're at, for the part of the country you're in. Can I up your game 25 grand? Hopefully a month, but can I at least up it 25 grand in a year so you get your money back? You know what I mean? That's what I want. That's what I'm trying to figure out. If I deem the answer is yes, then I'll tell you, my hat's in the ring. Now go home, pray to your wife, talk to your God, and decide if you want to hire me or not. Because I won't we won't make a decision on that call. I don't want a decision on that call. I want you to make sure that I'm the right guy for you.
I'll be sure to put the links on the show notes so people can refer back to those. There's one question that I like asking before we sign off, and that's if you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old Mitch, what would you tell that kid?
I would tell him that you don't have to wait for anybody's permission to become an expert at anything. Figure out what you want to do as fast as you can, which is a challenge at 17, right? Yeah. But figure out what you want to do and then get your 10,000 hours in, Yeah. I mean, drill down on it. Try to figure out what it is you want to do. I spent a long time not really understanding that everything I wanted to learn was out there. I could have immersed myself in all kinds of things. I don't know. I was naive for a long time.
Yeah, direction can be a tricky thing, especially when you get hit with a lot of opportunity and different ways of doing things and skinning the cat per se. Mitch, thank you so much, man. It's been a very illustrating conversation, very instructional conversation, and very entertaining conversation. So I hardly ever see all of those combined into one single episode, but you've definitely done it here. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for stopping by.
All right.
It's been a blast. There you guys have it. Stay focused. You got this.